My fifth semester at BYU Idaho was done from home because of COVID, and I wanted to talk about some of my lessons and struggles from it, just to keep up the struggles from that semester series. The main struggles I wanted to talk about are that I struggle with adapting to the environment, too much free time, and lack of communication with peers and professors. We're going to go into each one, talk about it, and as always, I hope that it gives you some perspective and helps you out with building your best life, building your best college experience, and building your best experience, period, and beyond. So, with that all said, thank you. We'll just jump right into it. So, I think one of the biggest struggles was adapting to my environment. Living at home, there's this constant acceptance no matter really what I did. I mean, obviously, my parents didn't want me to do anything super stupid, and I wasn't going to do anything really stupid, but like, they're like, here's food, here's all this other stuff. We just want to help you out. And so there really needed to be this acceptance and, well, this like following up with myself because it was easy to get really lax and to adapt into the environment a bit too much. So, like, maybe one of my siblings is sleeping in all day and is enjoying life. It's easy to let some of that behavior to rub off on me a little bit and be like, okay, that is okay with me too. Kind of letting myself be like, you know what, yes, I'm at home, but I also need to treat myself like a professional so I can get this, and this done. Because my goals are different than this sibling's goals. Maybe this sibling's goals, maybe they don't even really have any goals. And I love that sibling, but I have goals and I have things that I wanted to work on. And so there's a little bit of a disconnect there. And I don't think there was a very good, clear idea of exactly what I was working towards at different points. Sometimes it was really just about continuously pushing the process, like moving the cogs forward without actually deciding and having a clear intention of where do I want to be by the end of this semester, by the end of this period of my life. And that's a kind of dangerous spot to be when you don't really know exactly what you'll go for, because then you'll get to a certain spot and you'll be like, probably won't be super pleased with it, and you'll just kind of have to accept it and move on, as opposed to like if you had like a pretty good idea of where you wanted to be. Like when I play Settlers of Catan with Tim and Sam and whoever I'm playing it with, I generally have a pretty good idea of what I want to do with that game once I have my first spaces picked out and stuff. I think there's a lot that I did well here. I had my desk and I had different things set up. Sometimes I go read on the trampoline, so there's these different habits that are kind of built in. But at the same time, I think I let myself adapt and change a little bit too much to my circumstances, like a chameleon. I kind of blended in a tiny bit more than I needed to, where I could have done a certain thing. And obviously, this was like 2 years ago, but like, it is interesting kind of looking back and be like, you know, I did let myself kind of adapt to the environment a bit much. And I think it was really easy to do that because we were all like, what is going on? I don't know what's going on. I was planning to go back to school and now I'm living at home for another 3 or 4 months. That's crazy. So unexpected. But kind of going back to one of my other episodes, like choosing certainty and uncertainty, there's a couple certainties that were like, you know, it would have been helpful to go back and be like, okay, these are 100% true. One, I'm going back to school at some point. Two, the time is going to fly by either way, so I might as well make the most of it. Three, everything I do right now is going to add up. I'm kind of saying different stuff from different episodes, but recognizing some of those certainties might have been helpful in that uncertain time, because even if there is some uncertainties, there's always going to be those certainties, and those certainties will help you to not change as much when the winds of change flow. And obviously, there's things you need to change, and change can be really good. I'm talking about letting not so good things happen and change you without you really wanting it to happen. Number two, we kind of talked about this a little bit, like too much free time. I mean, for one thing, we were in Eastern time, and so it was like 2 hours ahead. So instead of my assignments being due at like 11:59, they were due at like 1:59 a.m., which was nice, but there was multiple times where I took advantage of that. It'd be like, oh, it's not actually due right now. I could be up at 1:35 and I still can turn in this assignment. And that is dangerous because that is the time when you're actually supposed to be sleeping. So there's multiple times where I would pass out and wouldn't turn in the assignment and it just wasn't good. Whereas kind of going back to the adaption thing, looking at exactly how much time I had and being like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do on a consistent basis. There was times where I'd read on the trampoline before a class, but then sometimes I felt guilty for doing that because I hadn't done enough homework, because maybe I hadn't prioritized enough time to do homework, and it was just kind of this mix up. And so, if you have a ton of free time, I've had a ton of free time over the last month, and I've gotten a lot done, but also feels like I've lost a lot of time too. And that's true. The thing is, when you have a ton of free time, unless you have different things built into your schedule, it's going to be really easy to take a whole day to get just one or two things done, as opposed to like if you have a job or there's something else that takes a good portion of your time and you only have like 4 or 5 hours to work with, then you can do a lot with that. When you have like the entire day to work with, it's really easy to sleep in, have a really long breakfast, take a nap, because your brain doesn't really have that sense of urgency as much until like the end of the period. And that end of the period is always going to come. Like, no matter how exciting that piano recital is, it's going to come to an end and you're going to have to go back to practice, or you're going to have to go back to whatever you were doing. And so it really helps to plan your free time. This is something I need to do better with, but planning your free time. Like, what am I going to be doing during my free time? I'm going to be doing this and getting very serious about it. Like,